My name is Chris Sweeney, and I'm the Managing Editor for Special Reports here at Key Media. And today we're looking at our brand new report, Innovative HR Teams in Asia. What kind of general policies and initiatives would you expect them to have in place to be classified an innovative HR team?
Innovative HR team is a team that has looked at their policies and brought them up to date for today's world, I think. The policies that were in place maybe 20 years ago, even 10 years ago in HR, aren't necessarily valid anymore. We're working differently, we're acting differently, we've got different priorities, we've got different expectations of our employers, and an innovative HR team will hook into that and understand that DEI initiatives are incredibly important, and then how to implement them and how to influence them rather than just paying lip service. I think it's incredibly important that HR teams are in tune with what their employees need, and what technology that they can leverage in order to make their roles more streamlined and make the HR strategies that they're implementing across the organization more effective. So that's everything from DEI through to processes, sort of the administrative processes and everything else. So whereas old HR was purely an administrative function, over the last 10, 15 years, it's become much more of a business partnering function. That's even more so now, where we're living in a world that is so volatile. There's so much going on. The landscape is changing constantly, from a candidate perspective, from an employee perspective, and from a business direction perspective. We had COVID, we had a period where everyone was suddenly working online. We had now we're looking at now how to retain that talent when they're used to working from home. So moving to a hybrid sort of model when it comes to working from home and working from the office. And by the way, I think that's probably the way forward. And I don't think we'll ever go back to a full 100% in the office situation. Every company's different. Sometimes every function is different. So that's just my opinion on the overall.
Maybe I could ask you also about the Asian market. Obviously, this is innovative teams in Asia. Is there anything specific to that market you feel is particularly important that maybe is not as relevant in other parts of the world?
In Asia especially, HR has been seen as more of an administrative function in the past. And I think what is very important in Asia, obviously those those HR people are now becoming much more business partnering functions, which is great. They've still got the administrative part to HR, but the HR people now have a place at the table, so they're part of the business decisions. Now, what's very important in Asia is the building of trust across an organization, especially when it comes to policies such as DE&I. So that feeling of belonging needs to permeate throughout the whole organization. So it's not just an HR thing, DE&I. So the diversity, the inclusion especially, can't just be something that they're paying lip service to. The HR teams this is the same globally, but especially for Asia, there is a need for a real level of trust for the employees with their employer, for them to be able to disclose or declare that they may have a disability, or that they may have a certain sexual preference, or they may want to disclose, especially over here, their ethnicity. Rather than being very general, they would be more specific, because those are the kind of metrics that companies are now looking at, not to discriminate, but actually to include. But if you're in an organization which doesn't have that trust between HR and the people, then they're not likely to give you that information. And that information isn't something you can just collect from when they actually register with your business and become an employee. So, and then also if you don't know that those individuals are there, then it's very difficult to support them and put in strategies, to put in frameworks that will make them feel more comfortable and more included, and provide and become more inclusive. So that's something I feel is especially the case in Asia. And in Asia, diversity means something different to the same as like in the US, it's much more about ethnicity. Across Europe, we're still talking gender and ethnicity. Within Asia, a lot of it is around ethnicity to a different degree, and around bringing in local leadership rather than expat talent, where it's historically been, especially at leadership level. So having a leader who is of the same nationality as you, where you can see where your career can go. If you're in Thailand and you've got a Thai leader, now you can see where your career path is. Whereas previously, if you were in Thailand and you had some expat from the US drafted in on a rotation scheme, it became less achievable. So it's very important to bring in those local leaders. And I think an innovative HR team will put in very, very good training. There'll be a lot of training and focus on reaching out to local talent within those countries, and a lot of emphasis on training and development of local talent so that they can hit those leadership positions.
As I said, the report has got 15 winners, and they're sort of recognised for breaking boundaries, moving the HR industry forward. And of our winners, 47% of them have been in operation for more than 30 years. Does that maybe say that to be a success in HR, there's no shortcuts? It's long-term processes and a culture and a company to sort of be successful and have that longevity to understand what is a success in terms of HR?
Well, culture is incredibly important. But if you could launch, I think the answer is no. I don't think you need to have, the short answer is no. I don't think you need to have been in business for 40 years in order to have an innovative HR strategy. You can start off with the right strategy by looking around and understanding what other companies are doing, what's worked, what hasn't worked, how they would do things differently if they were to do it all over again, rather than having to kind of turn a tanker and make a lot of changes and that are going to have an impact. But actually that impact is quite slow because there's a lot of change to be made. There's a lot of the old guard who may be still of the older culture. So, a cultural change within an organization is huge. It's huge, it's tricky, it's difficult. Sometimes starting afresh and starting a new business and, you're setting out the culture, you're setting out your values right from the beginning. I mean, that's advantages to it.
In terms of the report, the research team looked at a number of specific categories and criteria, and one of them was talent management. Maybe you've sort of alluded to this with, sort of showing a pathway forward, but how would you characterize the best practice in terms of talent management?
So talent management is incredibly important. You've spent a lot of time attracting the people that you want to hire. You've brought them into the organization, and now you need to retain them. And in order to retain them, you need to develop them effectively, because then they'll actually fit the roles and the purpose that you're needing them to do, not now, not just now, but for the future too. And as businesses are constantly evolving, the talent that's required and the skills and the soft skills are also evolving. So that talent development and talent management part of the organization is incredibly important. We talk about innovative HR strategies. Well, talent management definitely sits within that. So training programs, as I mentioned previously, about, for local talent, making sure you're bringing local talent up through the ranks, ensuring that everyone, that DEI strategy is permeated through absolutely everyone, and leaders have that supportive training as well. There's a lot of element on training, but there's a lot of there's a lot of emphasis on regularly checking in with your employees as well, to making sure that they're on track and that they feel that they're on track. And I think there are a lot of ways that maybe technology can help with this, or from both sides. There are apps and technology that allow employees to start tracking their progress against goals that have been set. And it's much less about KPIs and beating people if they haven't hit KPIs. It's much more about development. Everyone learns in a different way. Everyone responds to a different style of management. And when you're in an organization with a certain policy and a certain way of working, that's quite difficult to get the best out of everyone. And really, that's what an innovative HR team will do, is get the best out of everyone working for them. So in order to do that, you need to understand how someone learns. You need to understand how they will develop and what is important for them. And then you need to work out how that would help you reach your business goals. So we've got a partnership with intelligent boardroom, actually some technology, which I'll share you a link to, you'll be interested in. And that enables you to look at your team, and it enables you to look at your team and the business goals and really break down whether that team is fit for purpose for where you need to take the business. And it may be a team for a project, it may be a team for a longer term strategy, but that kind of innovative technology can help you identify if there are any gaps, identify where the strengths are, and help you hit where you need to get to. And alongside that, you'll have all the learning and development will be supporting getting those people up to speed, pointing them in the right direction. But there is technology that can help with this. There is, there is a lot of learning and development support as well.
Another category we looked at was health and wellness. Now, maybe we've alluded to a little bit, maybe with the hybrid working, the COVID situation, obviously we're all aware of, but what's sort of key in HR for health and wellness over in the Asian market?
So for health and wellness in the Asian market, there is a big focus on making sure that, well, if we're talking Asia generally, about not working too long hours. If you look to Japan, for example, and some other locations, they are notoriously long hours. So the organizations are actively working to make sure that there are almost safeguards in place, because there's been some pretty bad stories that have come to light over recent years where individuals have just worked themselves to the bone. And that's a cultural shift within an organization. Again, that's not easy to do, but that's something that's incredibly important. If people burn out, then they're not going to be any good for the organization. More importantly, it's much more about the employee now. If the employees aren't happy, then they'll leave. So, it's never completely altruistic between employee and employer. Both are getting something out of the deal, but it's got to work, and it's much healthier if both employee and employer are healthy and happy. So I think a genuine interest in employees, making sure that they are healthy, happy, that it's all very well offering a gym membership, but if it's a gym membership as a perk but no one actually goes, then maybe that's not the one size fits all that organization needs to offer its employees. There's breadth around this. So an option, the health and wellness benefits package where they can opt to have gym membership or spend it on yoga classes or do qigong or whatever it is that's required, or meditation, or maybe just nutritional nutritional, what do you call it? Counseling. So counseling, nutritional support, that kind of thing. Instead, having that option makes it less one size fits all.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense what you're saying with the with the flexibility and trying to suit individuals. And another thing I want to talk about was the sort of final category was HR technology. My question, I think, is that obviously you want to use technology, but is there a point where you want to balance it and not just use it for the sake of it? Sometimes maybe the human approach is the best approach. H being the human in HR.
Absolutely, we're human resources, but human resources. Yes, we. I don't imagine that everyone's ever going to spill their heart out to a chatbot and expect them to have any kind of empathy really in the background. But then again, who knows what's going to happen in the next 10 years. I think we're on an exponential growth of AI now, and anything can happen in the next 5-10 years, and it's quite exciting time. Right now, for example, GPT-3, from an HR perspective, you can pull, if there's a role that you've never hired for before, you can pull 5 job descriptions from the internet from different sectors, amalgamize them and produce one, and then deliver it in 5 different languages. And you could do that in the space of 20 minutes. So that kind of level of administrative time saving is fantastic. What it does mean is what are those people in HR going to be doing if those kind of efficiencies can be made? And hopefully that will be much more people facing. So rather than getting stuck down in the administrative work, an innovative HR team will be leveraging the technology that we have available to us. So they will be rolling out some of the basic tasks and giving those to chatbots, robotics, whatever's required, the manual tasks, the basic tasks. Where it becomes the human-to-human interaction, I expect there still to be people. I think technology will be leveraged when it comes to business partnering from a talent intelligence perspective. So, you know, we are a talent intelligence business. We're not just recruitment. We're constantly evaluating all the different technologies that we use to support our work. And there's a lot of different apps and tech and everything else. And that's just making us faster and faster and stronger and more effective. And it's the use of all of those technologies which enable us to deliver the work that we do. The same is within an organization. At a business partnering level, as I was speaking about before, you're able to work with the board who want to relocate a function to another part of the world because it's too expensive where they are, or there's not enough talent, or they need to be closer to wherever the resources or the minerals or whatever it is that they're working in are. And in order to do that, previously there'd be quite a lengthy process of going in and doing the research and a lot of analysis and coming back with a weighty report. With technology, we're able to really streamline that process and just speed it up infinitely. So we can. So I think that the key now is having the humans trained to make sure that the requests of AI, the requests that we're asking of AI are accurate, because you're only going to get the right results that you need if you're going to ask the right questions in the first place.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Helen. And my final question to ask you was your golden nugget, your top tip for any companies out there, you know, their HR teams looking to be on this, you know, list in 2024. What's the one thing you say to them that's the most important in terms of innovation and maybe getting that recognition next year?
So I think next year we're going to be in a different position. We're going to have more technology. We're going to be using GPT-3, GPT-10, whatever next year. There'll be a lot of changes. And I think a company with an innovative HR team is going to be demonstrating that they've been able to move with the times. And that's from a people perspective, so really building that trust in the organization. And it's from a technology perspective too. So they will really be leveraging all the technology that is available to them. And I think that's really key.
Well, Helen Coult, President for Asia Pacific for Armstrong Craven, thank you so much for joining me. It's been really interesting. Thanks for all your analysis and comments.
Thank you. Great. Lovely speaking to you.